In this video, I want to talk about how I built a 6-figure coaching business. If you want to be a coach or you're an existing service provider and you want to increase your online presence and sign more clients, you're in the right place. Now, I was able to do this without a large social media following, being new to the industry, and I didn't use paid ads. I had a range of products in my suite, including a high-ticket coaching offer, a digital course, and a digital product. If you are new here, I actually used to be a weight loss coach. I had a social media following of less than 20,000. I used both Instagram, YouTube, and my SEO ranked blog, which was called Just Real Food at the time, as my traffic sources. I had an email list of about 2,000 people, and through external collaboration opportunities, I was able to build a regular source of referral revenue as well. Now, all of this started with me having a passion for cooking and developing recipes, and I turned all of this into a thriving business that allowed me to quit my 9-to-5 job. But let's talk step by step about how all of this happened and how it can happen for you. So the first component to any internet business is social media. Social media is how we drive traffic to our offers. Now, I personally used YouTube and Instagram as my two main social media accounts. I actually kind of matched my background to look like the Instagram logo. Now, if you don't have time to be on two platforms, I highly recommend picking one platform as your primary social media platform and then branching out as you get more experience. Also, a lot of content repurposing strategies. You can drive traffic from one platform to another platform, which no one really talks about, but I really like that strategy. Now, one thing I learned during this process is that you don't need a huge following to make money. Building a following is a very different skill set than monetizing a following. So building a following requires you to create content around a message that you believe in and also know how to hit each platform's algorithms. Where monetizing a following requires you to have business skills. Business skills is what allows you to convert views into sales. Now, I personally launched my coaching offer when I had 3,000 followers. And I was able to hit 6-figure in revenue and profit before I had 20,000 followers. People ask me all the time, what's the best social media platform to be on to sell my thing? And the answer is that it depends where your ICP is. So I would say that YouTube is very all-encompassing. I personally really like YouTube myself. I consider myself a YouTuber first and foremost, but I would also say that it has slightly higher barriers to entry. Once you've been on social media for a while, you'll realize that pretty much all of the platforms are fundamentally the same. Now, just having a social media following doesn't mean anything. In order to run a successful service-based business, you genuinely have to want to and like to help and talk to other people. If you want to be a good coach, you have to be a people person. You have to be able to resonate and relate with other people. You have to connect with your audience. And yes, market research is great, but no better data will come than talking to your existing audience or people in your market. When you give value first and you put people first, you will be seen as somebody that people want to buy from. So make sure you find opportunities to connect with people in your industry. DM them, email them, whatever it is. Get people on the phone, get them talking. Now, this is actually how I started my coaching business. It was through connecting with existing people in my audience. This is how I picked up my first wave of clients. We basically went back and forth with these clients to figure out what their problems were and how to get them results. Through these initial conversations, we found out that many people were plateaued on low-carb diets. Another thing that we noticed that my initial first batch of clients really wanted is a sense of community and understanding and belonging, because when you're on a diet, it's a pretty lonely feeling. Most people are not doing a diet with you. So connecting with people is how you identify opportunities. So a big part of coaching or being a service provider is having a methodology that gets results for clients. Now, when you're a service provider, let's say that you are an accountant, the fulfillment and the service that you provide is kind of like predetermined or set for the most part. In the fitness world, there are vegan bodybuilders and there are carnivore bodybuilders. Some fitness coaches believe in strength training. Some fitness coaches believe in high intensity interval training. So within this methodology, there is so much opportunity to niche down and find something that you believe can actually help people, because your goal, especially if you want to sell anything high ticket, is to know how to get results for people. People pay for results. But having a very systemized and scalable format to your fulfillment is basically key to signing more clients without burning out. When you have custom packages for your clients and custom solutions, that's okay in the beginning, but no matter what service you sell and what industry you're in, too many custom packages for people is always a challenge to your service delivery because it's limited by your time. And when you are doing one thing for one client and another thing for another client, it slows you down. You have these companies like Orange Theory and SoulCycle, and they basically just focus on one type of service within the fitness industry. They don't offer everything to everyone. My coaching business, I specialized in low carb dieting. I had a handful of clients that were doing carnivore diet, and then I have a handful of clients that were doing keto diet. Sometimes you have your general niche, but then, you end up picking some people who do other things along the way. So I also worked with some paleo clients. How we came up with this methodology was through our own experience. We created our own macro calculators. We gave people custom meal plans, custom fitness plans through an app called Trainerize. We offered one-on-one call access with text message access. But one thing I want to stress that at the end of the day, access and more stuff is not what makes an offer high ticket. I went through multiple revisions of this offer to constantly make it better. I tried to change up my ICP multiple times. I tried to change up the actual offer multiple times. Through this feedback loop of slightly adjusting the offer, seeing how people would respond, slightly adjusting my coaching methodology, see how people would respond, to continuously make my service better as I went along and I helped more people. And even if I were to sell accounting services, it would be the same thing. You are constantly revising your fulfillment so that you provide a better service to your client. And this happens whether you sell accounting services or you sell fitness services. The next thing I actively worked on is building authority. Whether you are a new coach or you're an established service provider, you still have to establish authority, and establishing authority is a big part of getting online sales. So there's a couple ways that you can establish yourself as an authority in your niche. First is to talk about your own experience. Tell your own story. Collaborate with experts. So this can be doing podcasts or interviews with other people. Showing up consistently on social media is a huge form of authority. Just the fact that you show up consistently is a testament that you're a trustworthy person and they can trust your business. People don't trust people that stop posting for 3 months. Relevancy in today's day and age is very much driven by your ability to capture attention and be everywhere all the time. There are a lot of authority building tactics out there, but I would say that these 3 things are pretty key in addition to creating a lot of value. So obviously you do have to create value and demonstrate that you're an expert by talking about your clients' pain points. Next thing is creating digital marketing assets. So there are a lot of different ways that you can build up an online presence and your online footprint, so to speak. And there's different ways that you can do it to make it extremely effective. The first thing that you need are lead magnets. So when I did weight loss coaching, one of my lead magnets was 3-day sample meal plans, right? Because people really like meal plans in the dieting niche or the fitness niche. I also had a whole bunch of different other lead magnets as well that I was constantly testing and rotating through, but being able to articulate your ICP's problems in a written and visual format with a downloadable PDF. The second asset to create a digital footprint is your email list. So if you're a coach like how I used to be, having an email list was an extremely valuable asset for me at the time. If you are an accountant, having a newsletter, every service-based business can basically benefit from an email list, especially in a social media-based business where you don't own your followers, but you do own your list. So I wrote regular emails to my list. I launched promotions to my list, spoke regularly to my list just to talk to them. I think, I have the whole list of series and sequences and forms inside ConvertKit, but I was always testing emails, Now, an SEO ranked blog is not mandatory, but it made sense for my line of work because I was doing recipes and I personally like it. It is extra work to do an SEO blog, but it was a huge extra driver of traffic for us actually, because I had a handful of really bumping recipes that were ranked on Google. And I actually had many clients come through and tell me that how they found me initially was through a Google search for recipes. And then what happened is that it drove them to my YouTube videos and they started watching YouTube, and they also saw my Instagram. But I would say that having an SEO ranked blog is like icing on the top of the cake of having a social media following. Especially if you do YouTube. Google and YouTube are very linked together in terms of how they rank you on the algorithm. Now, speaking of assets, I'm going to be launching a new community in the new year that breaks down everything that you need to learn about creating an online business. So make sure you stay tuned for my videos or sign up for my newsletter if you want to stay updated and have early access. Now let's talk about the offer. The offer is really important to get right. And it's not just the offer itself, but also how you communicate the offer and how you package the offer. Because a lot of what selling online really is perceived value. And there's a certain way of communicating online that helps you increase perceived value. And a big part of perceived value and communicating your offer is understanding how people interpret information nowadays. And as I mentioned earlier, your first offer is not going to be your final offer. Your first offer is something that you are just going to get out there to someone, and you are going to wait for feedback and results, and then you're going to reiterate that offer. A big part of coaching or selling consulting services online is building an offer, but also knowing how to communicate that offer to your audience to see whether they bite. So in conjunction with being a good coach, reiterating your offer and testing different messaging to see what works and what resonates with your audience is a huge part of success. So for myself, I personally tried changing up my ICP multiple times. I tried packaging in some other solutions into my main offer related to sleep, biohacking, performance, understanding hormones. And what I did is I tested the viability of these ideas with my email list, with landing pages, with content, with existing clients. I tested my strategies with one-off coaching arrangements and basically just continually got better as I went along. And a lot of the stuff that I did for service delivery was basically just from doing research online. For example, if you're an investing coach, a good investing coach is someone who is really passionate about investing, has done it themselves and gotten good results, stays on top of the market and trends, and most importantly, knows how to make money for themselves and make money for their clients with investing. So there are many different ways that you can build a high ticket funnel, but a funnel always starts with an opt-in. And through that opt-in, you have a second page with some sort of call to action. I've personally tried the free call funnel, the low ticket digital product funnel, and the application funnel, and all three of these work. And in terms of webinars, there are a couple of distinctions between a lower ticket webinar and a higher ticket webinar, and whether you're selling a course or coaching. Now, the purpose behind a webinar is to educate. If you are a private equity firm, you could run a webinar educating people on real estate investing and specific tax tips that people can do to try to minimize their tax liability when they do real estate investing. And at the end of the webinar, you would pitch your offer, your methodology. What makes webinars super powerful is that you can present your offer live. What webinars remind me of is like industry events. This is a great opportunity to educate your potential clients. Some of your existing clients may also come as well, and to pitch your offer at the end. And the reason why webinars are so effective is because it's, basically done in a live setting. So I would say that sales calls and closing was one of the steepest learning curves for me, because I personally didn't have any sort of sales experience or background. And because I wasn't doing anything related to accounting, I was also, so to speak, in a new industry as well. So for most coaches who don't have a sales or marketing background, this is probably going to be the case, is learning how to handle objections. The most common objection being the price objection, the spouse objection. Think about an objection. The only way to get better at sales is to do more sales calls, to get your sales calls audited by another person, to get feedback on how you do sales, how you say things. Sometimes it's just like brainstorming ideas and talking through some of the different things that we can say back to them to help us close. So sales and closing is something we're going to be talking about in my community. So make sure you stay tuned for more updates on the community that's coming in the new year. If you're using social media, closing on warm traffic is always easier. This is actually why I recommend people start with social media when they're selling services, because it allows you to close on warm traffic, and closing on warm traffic is definitely much easier than closing on cold traffic. And it's a great starting point for people who are newer to sales, because if you are doing all the brand building and the content part and showing up consistently properly, then the closing part isn't going to be as hard. Whereas if you're closing on cold traffic, it becomes much more about your offer, whether you can build trust right off the get-go. The last super important component to be really valuable is referrals and community. And when I say community, I mean connecting with people in the industry. And this is why earlier I talked about having a people-first mentality when you're a service-based business, because when you're really good at what you do, people will naturally refer people to you. You know, I had a couple of good friends in the industry that sent a lot of referrals our way, and I also got a handful of referrals from existing clients who had a good experience working with us. Any service-based industry, referrals are always a source to grow your business. Being a part of a community or being perceived to be a part of a group or a community works really well. So doing collaborations with other people, podcasts. This is also a big part of establishing kind of that online presence as well, as when you show up on other people's podcasts and do collaborations, because not only are you given an opportunity to share your story, to talk about yourself, to promote your lead magnet, it also helps validate you as an authority in the community. Now, obviously, as business owners, we are busy people, so it's not that we are like trying to connect with everyone and talk to people all the time, but to the extent that you can, being strategic about who you reach out to, who you connect with, who you build relationships with is a big part of running a successful service-based business and a big part of establishing an online presence for your business. So if you're an investing coach or a money management coach, you can consider connecting and making friends with accounting influencers, because they could give you business and you could give them business. If you're an accounting firm, you might want to consider building a partnership with a financial advisor or a wealth advisor that has the same clientele that you're going after. And that way you can refer business to them, they can refer business to you. So referrals, community, collaboration, podcasts, partnerships, I would consider this to kind of all be in the same bunch, largely in part building up your social presence, building up your professional network, so to speak. If you guys like this video today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You're going to love my other video on how to think like a CFO in your business. In that video, I summarize many years of my experience as a CPA working in industry to take you from the process of how to think about a business from a CFO's perspective from 0 to 10 million. So if you love business content in general, you're gonna love that video. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time.